Welcome back to a brand new PDG live video. Today I'll be doing something a little different. We'll be going over some of the most playable cards from Shrouded Fable, which will be shortly released today. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of these cards. Okay, starting off with Dartrix here. It is interesting to see a new addition for the United Wings deck. It was originally introduced with Paldea Evolved, and so now we get another United Wings attacker. With Dartrix, you do get the valuable grass-type coverage, where we can one-hit KO the Charizard from Obsidian Flames, as well as the Cornerstone Ogerpon EX. The only drawback really for Dartrix really is that it is a Stage 1 Pokemon. With United Wings, it is all basics, attacking for 1 energy, which makes it a very quick attacking deck. But with Dartrix, you do have to evolve it up. We also do have the Kingdra EX. It does have the interesting attack King's Order, where we can put 3 water Pokemon out of our discard pile and put them right onto our bench. So some ideal candidates I'd feel like would be 2 Baxcalibur, and then the third Pokemon would be either the Radiant Greninja or the Palkia V-Star, depending on which one you might need more for that game. And also with Hydro Pump, since we set up so well with King's Order, you can definitely do a ton of damage with Hydro Pump, where we get to do 50 damage and then 50 more for every water energy attached to Kingdra EX. We also do have Dusknoir and Dusclops. Both of these are very similar with the same ability name. You can knock out Dusclops and put 5 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And with Dusknoir, you can knock out this Pokemon and then put 13 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So this will definitely be very good for any damage spread deck like the Cofagrigus EX or Mismagius. Or you can even combine this with the Charizard EX, where you do knock this out and give your opponent a prize card, so you will be able to bump up the damage on your Charizard EX with Burning Darkness, as well as you do get to put those damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. We also do have Okidogi EX, just a solid basic Dark-type Pokemon with 250 HP, as well as we do have the attack Chain Crazed. If this Pokemon is poisoned, we get to max out at 260 damage with Chain Crazed. And we can either set up with the first attack and search out the 2 Dark-type energies and poison your Okidogi EX, or we do have the secondary option where we could run the Pincharunt EX and use the ability Subjugating Chains, where once per turn we can switch one of your bench Dark-type Pokemon, which could be the Okidogi EX, put it into the active spot, and it will get poisoned with the Subjugating Chains ability. And another Pokemon EX that is Dark-type that is coming with Shrouded Fable will be Munkidori EX. For its ability, if this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent, and if you have any Pincharunt EX in play, your opponent does take 1 prize card fewer. So this is basically a 2 prize Pokemon that can basically be a single prize Pokemon if we do have the Pincharunt EX in play. And lastly, for the Quadfecta here for the Fizandipiti EX, it does have the ability Flip the Script, where once per turn, if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you may draw 3 cards. So this is basically another draw engine that can be potentially used with this with the other Dark-type Pokemon that we just saw, or we can even slide this into just about any other deck as a draw engine. And we also do have the attack Cruel Arrow for 3 colorless energy, where you don't even need any dark energy to use this attack. You can put 100 damage on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So a pretty decent draw engine that we can definitely utilize for just about any deck. We also do have this Kyurem here. It is a dragon Pokemon that we use for the ability Plasma Bane, where if your opponent has any cards in their discard pile with colorless in its name, we can use its attack Trifrost just for a single colorless energy. And so this will be a very effective counter against the Lost Box deck that uses Colorless Experiment, or just about any deck that uses the Lost Box as their draw engine. And then we can use the attack Trifrost for a single colorless energy, discard that 1 energy, and then do 110 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. We also do have the Haxorus here, which is pretty good for the Regidrago V-Star, I would say, probably the best case to use it for, where we have Dragon Pulse, where you can do 230 base damage, and then discard the 3 the top 3 cards of your deck. So very good for Regidrago V-Star because it does have very high base damage, and we can take a one-hit KO on one of your opponent's basic Pokemon that have more than 200 HP. We also do have this Genesect here, which is very interesting with its ability Ace Nullifier. This is a counter to Ace Spec trainer cards, where if this Pokemon has a tool card attached to it, your opponent can't play any Ace Spec cards from their hand. So I feel like the most ideal tool card to attach to Genesect would most likely be something like a Bravery Charm, just to give it an extra 50 HP, and it will activate the ability and make it also at the same time a little tougher to be KO'd by your opponent. And moving on to some of the trainer cards, we do have Cassiopeia, which is an interesting trainer card. I feel like it's not going to see much play just because it does have the caveat here where you can only use this card when this is the last card in your hand. So if your deck plays a lot of supporter cards, it can be definitely very tough to use this supporter card. It probably would work better maybe in a lightning deck where you have nothing but basic Pokemon, and the supporter cards in lightning decks are pretty limited, such as the Miraidon EX deck. And this trainer card does have a very good effect. It does allow you to search up to 2 cards from your deck and put them into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So if this card does see any play, I feel like it would be a 1 copy in someone's deck. Definitely not something where you'd have 4 or 3 copies, or maybe not even 2. And for an interesting tool card, we do have Binding Mochi here, where attacks used by the poison Pokemon this card is attached to do 40 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So this is basically another card that basically complements the Okidogi EX, because the Okidogi needs to be poisoned to do the 260 damage of its crazed attack. And then you attach this to it and we do another 40 more damage. We can max out at 300 damage with that Okidogi EX. We also do have Janine's Secret Art, where this is basically a energy acceleration card for our dark type Pokemon, kind of similar to Sada's Vitality, where we can choose 2 dark Pokemon, and for each of those we can search out a dark energy and attach it to each one of those Pokemon. And then if we attached any energy to your active Pokemon in this way, it is now poisoned. So basically the supporter card is really good for the Okidogi as well. It's another way to poison it to get that extra damage with Okidogi's EX's attacks. And moving on to the last supporter card, we do have Xerosic's Machinations, where your opponent discards cards from their hand until they have 3 cards in their hand. So a very good supporter card. It definitely puts your opponent at a disadvantage, and it's probably going to be used in almost just about every control and stall deck out there to really put your opponent at a disadvantage and make it really tough to play the rest of the game. And lastly, we do have the item card Night Stretcher, where we can put a Pokemon or a basic energy from our discard pile back into our hand. So those are all of the playable cards that I want to talk about in the new set Shrouded Fable. And as always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.